Welcome to psychology class.
Today we're starting with motivation, emotion, health, and stress.
Let's start with motivation.
The drive theory is when tension occurs when a certain need is not met and the person is motivated to relieve that stress or drive reduction. The instinctual need to maintain homeostasis impacts this.
The instinct theory happens with fixed action patterns and sign stimuli, which both play a key part in eliciting unlearned natural behavior.
Another theory of motivation is the arousal theory, which is one's desire or need to increase the tension, which creates excitement.
The inverted U explains this. Low arousal means poor performance, while high arousal means poor performance and you're distracted. The optimal is between the two.
The opponent process theory says that people are normally at a baseline state, and we may perform an act like smoking a cigarette that is pleasurable at first, but then we want to return to a baseline.
Lastly, the incentive theory says that an external goal or stimuli motivates someone, and expectation is key.
Approach conflict, you must choose between two desirable outcomes like going to Disney World or Universal.
Avoidance conflict, you must choose between unattractive outcomes like going to jail or prison.
Approach avoidance conflict, one event or goal has both attractive and unattractive features.
Multiple approach avoidance conflicts, you must choose between two or more things, each of which has both desirable and undesirable effects.
James Lang theory says we feel emotion because of biological changes caused by stress, William James and Carl Lang.
Whereas the Cannon-Bard theory says the biological change and the cognitive awareness of the emotion state occur simultaneously.
The two-factor theory by Stanley Schachter says our physical responses and mental interpretations combine to cause emotional responses. What is the biological basis of hunger?
Well, hunger is controlled through your hypothalamus. The lateral hypothalamus, which is a part of the hypothalamus that causes us to be hungry, while the ventromedial hypothalamus causes us to be full and not be hungry. And you can remember that because the L comes before the V in the alphabet. So L when you're hungry, V to stop eating.
I know the set point theory. The hypothalamus in the brain wants to maintain a certain body weight, and if we drop below that weight, it lowers our metabolic rate, which is how quickly our body uses energy.
That's good. When the set point is reached, hypothalamus tells us to stop eating and raises metabolism to burn excess food.
The eating disorders are bulimia, which is binging and purging, anorexia nervosa, which is a refusal to eat due to obsessions with weight, and obesity, which is being severely overweight.
Damn it! Oh, what happened? Orson fall down?
Shut up! I don't want to hit it.
Well, serves you right. You spent all that time trying to make Chris jealous, and now you have an eating disorder.
Just help me up.
Well, you know I would, but my doctor advised me against heavy lifting.
Oh, hardy ha ha. What the devil are you doing? Stop it! Stop it! I'm getting dizzy! Ah! Boss!
Lastly, the Garcia effect is taste aversion to a food results after feeling nausea after eating it.
On the other hand, life events that cause stress elicit stress reactions, which is how we react to these changes in the environment.
We measure stress through the SRRS, which stands for Social Readjustment Rating Scale. We measure stress using LCUs, which is life-changing units. Any major life change increases the score. Even something like marriage, which is usually a good thing, could be really stressful.
That's right. Anything that involves change can be stressful, but some people perceive it differently. Like, for example, teenagers, when they get a car, that's very stressful, but for an adult on the stress scale, it would not cause any stress, it's like a normal event.
General adaptation syndrome describes the general response animals and humans have to a stressful event.
The sexual response cycle was documented by William Masters and Virginia Johnson.
The stages are initial excitement, plateau phase, orgasms, and resolution phase.
Psychological factors such as sexual desire can be present even when the capability to have sex is lost.
Additionally, achievement motivation examines our desire to master complex tasks and knowledge and reach goals.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs consists of physiological needs, which is to satisfy drives for hunger, thirst, and sex.
Also, one of his needs is safety needs, which is to feel safe, secure, and out of damage. This can include having a shelter, somewhere to stay, and a steady income.
And then this also includes belonging and love needs, which is your need to belong, whether to be a social group or love.
Another one is esteem needs, which is to achieve and to gain approval of recognition.
Lastly, the most important need is self-actualization, which is to achieve your unique potential. Maslow believed that everyone was searching for this and that self-actualization is the most important thing.
But you always knew that this is where you wanted to be. This is what you
I knew I
wanted.
wanted to be in show business, and I just happened to luck out and things happen. I think you know what you're supposed to do. Deep down inside, I think everybody does. And a lot of people just don't go after it. You know, and like most people start out, they say, I want to be a this, but I'm going to get that to make sure I have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure because you're going, there's a possibility that I'm going to fall back. And when you put that out there, then you fall back. But if you just say, hey, this is what I want to do, and you go do it, you usually get your stuff the way you want it, man. That's what
Well, social motivation is an interaction with others. What do you guys know about social motivation?
Oh, well, I know there's Eros and Thanatos, and Eros is the drive for bodily pleasure, and Thanatos is like self-destruction or like death drive.
Yeah.
There's also Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is the need for someone to reach one's full potential.
Yeah, both Freud and Maslow studied social motivation a lot. Another thing is the need for achievement, which is to accomplish something difficult, and social and cultural factors affect this. There's two different types of motivators, intrinsic and extrinsic. What do you guys know about that?
Well, intrinsic motivation is motivation by an underlying need for competence and self-determination.
Whereas extrinsic is motivation from outside needs, so someone, maybe money or...
It is known that optimists have better outlooks on life and they see the glass half full, and this in turn leads to optimistic disposition, which is better health and ability to cope with stress.
On the other hand, there's pessimism, which may be accurate, but overall it's less healthy.
The immune system protects against illness by recognizing and destroying disease-causing substances like viruses, bacteria, and cancer cells. Antigens are foreign substances such as virus, bacteria, and cancer cells.
Lymphocytes are when the antigen invades the body and white blood cells begin to proliferate.
The lymphocytes do this with two different types of cells, the T and B cells. T cells attack and destroy the antigens directly, whereas B cells create antibodies which combine with the antigens to neutralize them.
PNI studies are mind-brain studies for immunity.
Stress is a very important part of everyone's life, and it can have negative impacts on someone and can cause them to perceive the world differently.
Such as learned helplessness, which is a generalized expectation that events are independent of our own control. Like, for example, in nursing homes, patients who felt that they didn't have any control over their own lives had a higher death rate. Whereas if they did have little control or control at all over their decisions, they would end up living longer.
Overload is events that become too intense that we can no longer adapt to it, like having a load of homework to do.
We now return to busy business lady whose life is missing something, but she doesn't realize it because she's so busy with business.
No, I cannot make that business meeting. I've got a different business meeting at 3, and we'll be doing business there.
I was wondering if you're free for coffee.
Oh, no, I can't. I've got a lunch meeting, and then a meeting after lunch. After that...
Shh.
We deal with stress in many ways, such as anticipatory coping, which involves 3 steps, including gaining information, developing a plan of action, and self-monitoring, which lowers anxiety as a whole.
Another way to deal with stress is cognitive reappraisal, which is when you modify your perception of stress by looking at the positive aspects. This is used with medical patients to keep them positive and looking forward to life.
When dealing with stress, it's also very important to have social support. Longitudinal studies show that people who have a strong social group tend to actually live longer. A strong social group can provide guidance, affection, and even reassurance to improve your self-esteem.